It could possibly be. I do think we need to go back in time and give some context to this.
I like context.
Context is good. And so the initial place is possibly the Velvet Wesley.
That's probably a good place for
Now, you all know the story of the Velvet Wesley.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody don't know the story of the Velvet Wesley? And you call yourself fans. One day about 2 years ago, almost exactly 2 years ago, in fact, just about exactly 2 years ago, Wil Wheaton,
That's me.
decided to waste my time by sending me a link to something completely and absolutely, utterly frivolous. And that was...
By frivolous, you mean awesome.
Well, frivolous and as they say in Spinal Tap, it's a fine line. And what it was a website called velvetpaintings.com. Describe velvetpaintings.com.
Velvetpaintings.com is exactly what it sounds like. A website where you can send a photograph, and that photograph will be given to an artisan in like a mud hole in Tijuana, who will then convert that photograph into a velvet painting.
And because he sent me this link, I had what they call in the industry as an epiphany. And the epiphany was that what Wil Wheaton was really saying is that his childlike heart, the 12-year-old in Wil Wheaton, was crying out.
Much the way the 12-year-old in my trunk cries out when we go over bumps.
But he was crying out for his own velvet painting. Nay, not only his own velvet painting, but a velvet painting of him. Nay, not only a velvet painting of him, but a velvet painting of him as Wesley Crusher. Nay, not only a velvet painting, I completely lost myself.
Velvet painting of me as Wesley Crusher, but
also the moment, the highest peak of Wesley Crusher in the series, when he got rid of that fucking sweater.
A great moment for me, not gonna lie.
And actually got a Star Trek uniform. So I call up the guy at the velvetpaintings.com and I said, can you create a painting and send it anonymously? Now, hold that thought because we'll get back to it. And the guy said yes, and I said, all right, here's what I want. And I sent him the picture of Velvet, of Wesley, resplendent with that big smile on his face. Look at me, I'm an ensign. And
not wearing an uncomfortable spacesuit.
Not at all. And he says, I'm intrigued. Is this actually going to go? And I say, oh yes. Oh yes, it is. And so it got into process, it got made, and I sent it to Wil with this beautiful gold,
Magnificent frame.
magnificent frame. And if you've ever seen it, it is as if Wesley Crusher and Tiger Woods made sweet, sweet love.
Right, yes. And a bit of Imelda Marcos.
Right.
And Kim Jong-il.
Right.
It was a sexy party, guys.
And the finishing touch where that his lips were touched with orange.
With coral-colored lipstick.
It was
like,
awesome.
like Grandma wears.
So, this magnificent work of art is completed and I'm to send it to him, and I get his address from a friend of ours who should have known better. And I didn't want him to know it was coming from me. I wanted it to be sort of like a surprise, so it would be sort of fun. So I sent a note that went like this. Dear Wil, the universe cried out for this to exist, and it does. I heart you with all the hearty heartness a heart can heart. Love, your secret admirer. And off it went. And for close to a month, I hear nothing. I hear nothing at all. And the reason for this, you remember how I originally said that I sent it anonymously because I thought it would be funny. The thing I forgot is Wil's famous. And when you're famous, anonymous shit showing up at your door, it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. I would have been less afraid had a human head arrived.
Well, in a sense, one did.
In fact, it did. I stand corrected. So I open up this package, and I remove a magnificent work of horrible art. It is majestic. And I think, wow, I wonder who this is from. And I pull out the envelope and I read a note about all the hardy-heartness that exists in the world, meaning that there's the hardy-heartness now exists in this painting. And I have become the gatekeeper, really, of the hardy-heartness. Oh, and it's sent anonymously, which means that the next thing that happens is someone shows up with a knife and an axe and a chainsaw, a roll of duct tape, a number of costumes, and a script. Now, I have lived this life in public, and I've been really lucky. People have, for the most part, respected my personal boundaries. It's been great. Sure. I have a family. I have a wife and I have 2 children. And my personal motto is don't be a dick. It is important to me to be awesome to people. I work very hard to be patient and gracious and grateful and just not a dick. But when my family, anybody messes with my family, I turn into I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you and I'm gonna make you watch while I kill you. I'm like that, I'm just like, I wanna put you in a cage at a crossroads and watch while birds peck you to death. That's just the way that I am. Sure. So I receive this and I think, well, my family cannot know about this because it's scary. I put it in the box, I make sure no one can see me, I walk out the back door of the house, I walk around the house and into our garage and hide it in the garage and ponder my next move. Do I call the local police or do I call the FBI? A bit of time goes by.
Yeah, and let me just say, in all fairness, my bad. So, time goes by. And it's been, it was commissioned in late April, now it's August. And I don't know what happened to it. How could this possibly have not appeared on his website? Because clearly, if something is bloggable, this would be it.
Oh, it certainly would be.
It certainly would be. And so I make subtle inquiries. I ask our mutual friend Mike, have you heard anything? And he says nothing. And so basically I'm curious, and I call up the velvetpaintings.com dude and I go, did you send it? And he's like, well, yes, and here's the tracking number. And so he gives me the tracking number and I pull up the history on it. And coincidentally, around this time, Will sends me a note because Zoe's Tale, my most recent novel, had just come out, and he sent me a note telling me how much he enjoyed it. Thank you, that one person who read the book. And so I was like, great, I'm glad you liked it, and blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, did something arrive at your house on August 6th between 5:30 and 6:30 from UPS? Just asking.
I want you to imagine that you are in a freight train. And by in, I mean chained to the front of it. And the freight train is going 1,000 miles an hour toward a mountain without a tunnel in it. And the mountain's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And also a dragon is chasing you and breathing fire down at the back of the train. And there's also, on the sides of the tracks, guys with halberds kind of poking at you. And the mountain is getting closer and closer and closer. And suddenly, a hand materializes, a big, magnificent mage hand. And it plucks you off the train. And it instead carries you away to the best bar in the world. And it sets you down there and says, drinks are on the house. I want you to imagine how relieved you would feel had you traded the first scenario for the second. Now, add an exponent to that. I don't care what it is, just make sure it has 2 digits in it. That is how relieved I felt when I realized that this was not sent by someone who wanted to know why Wesley left the Cock-a-Doodle ship, but was in fact sent to me by one of my dear friends.
So that's how that went.
And I took it out and I showed it to my wife.
Yes.
Who was like, that's awesome, why was it hiding in the garage? So John, I